are Locked On Cowboys, your daily Dallas Cowboys podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Locked on Cowboys.
Welcome back to the Locked On Cowboys podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Marcus Mosher. You can follow me on Twitter at Marcus_Mosher. And joining me today, as always, is Landon McCool. You can follow him on Twitter at McCoolBCB. You can also listen to him on the Best Coast Boys podcast. Landon, what's going on, sir?
Not much. We are on our way. This is week 1 week, technically, even though it's a Friday, because we are basically on a Tuesday of a regular.
I believe. Well, something like
Monday, weeks,
right?
Man. Monday. So so we're in week schedule. It's kind of weird to start for week 1 with a kind of disjointed schedule, but here we are, and we're the Dallas Cowboys, so we should probably get used to it, to be honest.
So we've got some Cowboys news to get to. We've got some Twitter questions, but before we do that, Landon, I just want to make a little admission here. I am not in football shape. There was a Ohio State Minnesota game on last night. There was another football game that was in a rain delay. I happened to bet on both of them using BetOnline, who we'll talk about in a little bit. And I could not stay awake for the second game. I'm just not in football shape. I'm not too proud to admit that.
I'm not going to lie. I was conspiring with one of your cousins to try to see if they could get an unflattering picture of you so that we could send it to Zeke because, turnaround is fair play. It
would not have been that hard. I mean, I was struggling last night, but we'll eventually get into shape, so I'm not too worried about it. But all right, Landon, let's talk about some Cowboy stuff. Two things. Lyle Collins did not practice on Friday. Now, he was with the training staff. It sounds like he was working on the side. But Mike McCarthy said the Cowboys are in a holding pattern with Lyle Collins. Mm-hmm. Are you getting concerned that he will not be available for week 1?
I am concerned. I don't want to say that I'm not, for sure. But I don't know that we're any further along than we were yesterday, really. Because for the reasons that you just mentioned, technically today's a Monday. And if we're getting – it's time to get back into our mind spaces, guys. You remember how we are in season. When we're in season, we don't worry about Monday practices. That's usually the day that if they're just needing a vet rest day, it's okay to miss that. I think the day to worry about would be Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. If he's not practicing by Sunday, that's when I'm going to start worrying. I don't know that means he's definitely not playing if he doesn't practice Sunday. I just think that Sunday is the day where we should start being concerned about whether or not he can play. Him missing today, it's not like he's missing a Friday practice on a regular week where we're playing this Sunday, right? This is still a Monday in their schedule. So this is not alarming quite. I mean, again, I'm not trying to tamper down that the Stingers are a thing. That is definitely a thing. But as far as talking about playing for week 1, my concern doesn't start really going up until after the Wednesday practice, which, again, starts Sunday for this week.
So, all right, here's my thought process. I'm getting slightly worried that he will not be available in week 1. But, again, I think we'll know by Sunday, if he's going to play or not. I am getting a little worried that this is going to be a season-long thing, right? We've dealt with Stingers before with Leighton Vander Esch, with Tyron Smith, if you're going into the season now having 2 of these already before we've actually got to actual game action, I just now have my doubts that, he's going to be able to make it through a full season. And that's concerning, when we consider that this is a guy that's coming off double hip surgery and did not play a game at all last year. So that's my biggest issue. If he misses week 1, okay, it's no big deal. You have 10 days until week 2. You have, I believe, 25 days until week 3 when you play the Eagles on Monday Night Football. If they want to hold them out those 2 games, it's fine. I'm just getting concerned. Maybe we won't have them for the entire season. Thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, look, none of us can predict the Stinger thing. It's clearly, about usage. It's a very individual player-to-player situation, it seems like. I would just remind people that Stingers are a thing that players play through, and that players can get through an entire season with. It's not a, I hate to say death sentence. It's not like a complete debilitating thing where they're unable to get through it. Some of them are. It depends on the severity. It's scary because of the unknown more than the certainty of it being debilitating. It's more that the thing that's so awful about stingers that we found is not so much that it's a guarantee. It's not like an Achilles tear where you're guaranteed to be out for X amount of time. The problem is that stingers pop up randomly and you don't know when it's going to happen. So I worry about that happening on and off. But I also think, I have some hope that, part of the reason that he suffered too so quickly is that, they have kind of conflicting needs here, right? They want La'el Collins to get a lot of snaps to get back into, play shape. But at the same time, that kind of obviously works against what you're trying to do with limiting his problems with the stinger. So they're trying to find a balance here. I'm hoping that, with kind of some reduced snaps, that hopefully the stinger issue won't flare up as much. But again, that does kind of also play into the other side of the problem, which is La'el Collins hasn't played football in over a year and needs snaps. So it's a very delicate balancing act. There's definitely no way around it.
One other note of the Cowboys offensive line, they're actually missing 2 starters right now because Connor Williams still on the COVID-19 list. Now, I did see that he participated in a conditioning drill today, but I mean, I think the expectation is he will be ready for week 1, but are you a little bit concerned about, just the conditioning stuff? Because I think he is one of these guys that did test positive for COVID, correct?
Yeah. I don't know for sure that if he tested positive or not.
I believe he did.
I can't, if he did, then I mean, it's not good, but the good news is obviously I'm pretty certain that he's vaccinated because he wouldn't be back so quickly if he was positive and unvaccinated. And as far as conditioning goes, if any of these guys who got enough snaps in the preseason and in training camp, it's Connor Williams. I mean, the guy had so many snaps, so I don't anticipate it's going to be difficult to get him back into playing shape.
All right, just something to monitor. Again, the Cowboys have a 10-day break after week 1 when they play Tampa Bay. I just wanted to let everybody know, if the Cowboys happen to lose that game, the season's not over. I feel like we do this every year. We put so much stock into week 1 thinking that's the only game that matters. In this year, more than any other year, week 1 is more irrelevant than ever, right? We have an extra game. It's not that big of a deal. Just get through it healthy, and we'll move on. So if Connor Williams is struggling a little bit with his conditioning, I think he'll be fine by the time we get to the important months of the season, correct?
It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. And it's an incredibly long marathon too. It's even longer than any of us even remember now.
Yeah, remember to tell me that like in October, November when we're struggling.
So, October or November. I'll remember to tell you that in the second quarter of this game coming up on Thursday.
I was going to say Thursday night when we jump back on this podcast. All right, let's take a quick break so I can tell you guys about Built Bar. It's the absolute best tasting protein bar out there. It's hard to even explain it. It's real chocolate with amazing flavors and just a great combination of low calories, high protein, and low sugar with no crazy additives. Best of all, they taste fantastic. Go to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your next box at BuiltBar.com. All right, Landon, let's get to some questions. We haven't done questions in a long time on this show, but this first one comes from Bobby. He wants to know, why does Anthony Brown get so much love from people as if he is a decent cornerback? I mean, people are not excited about Anthony Brown starting week 1 opposite of Trayvon Diggs on the outside. No Kelvin Joseph. Give the people some love for Anthony Brown.
Well, first of all, I feel like it's a straw man conversation, because who out here is actually giving a bunch of praise to Anthony Brown? Is that actually happening on Twitter a lot? Like,
no.
I think
they mean more to the Cowboys, right?
I think with the Cowboys, look, they drafted 2 young corners. The hope was that they could get up to speed to take that starting spot. That was a hope, and that it didn't pan out that way. Here's what I'll say about Anthony Brown. He has been a solid corner for almost his entire career, including his rookie year, including, up until last year, where he played with a variety of ridiculous injuries, including with a broken rib. So I think Anthony Brown is who I want as my cornerback too for the long haul? No. Is he better than what we had last year? even in the version of Anthony Brown that we had last year? Absolutely, he is. So I think he has the physical skill set. He has the the experience at this point to be a reliable cornerback to get you through where you need to go. And then once those other younger guys start to take the spot, he's going to be an invaluable down roster cornerback. And that's when I think you're really going to, once that happens, then we're all going to be like, man, I'm glad we got Anthony Brown as our third, fourth corner,
Yeah.
As of right now, look, do I love that he's going to be matching up against Chris Godwin?
Well, probably won't be Godwin. It'll probably be Evans or Antonio Brown on the outside.
It'll probably be a nice mixture of all of them, to be honest, So do I love that that's happening? I don't, but I think that he's not Swiss cheese. He's not like below average. I think he's like an average starter, maybe slightly below, but he's not like an embarrassment as your CB2. I just think he's not fantastic either.
That's the way I feel. Like he's competent. There'll be games where he plays really well. There'll be games where he really struggles. This might be one. And if he does struggle, it's not the end of the world. Like he could easily have a bounce back game next week when they play the Chargers and he's going up against Josh Palmer or Keenan Allen. Like I just would not be surprised at all. This next question kind of ties into this one. So it comes from Dylan. He wants to know if you had to try to be objective as possible. And I don't know what that means, Dylan. I'm always objective. Who or what is something on the Cowboys that will probably be that we are all overestimating or being too optimistic about going into the season? I think for me, it's the defensive backs. Like I know we're excited about Kelvin Joseph's future, about Nahshon Wright into the future, about maybe what Trevon Diggs could eventually be. But it's still one of the worst secondaries in football. And I think when you play some good quarterbacks like Tom Brady and Justin Herbert in the first 2 weeks, those guys could get exposed. And I think there's a chance by the end of the season, maybe they're closer to average. But yeah, I think that's going to probably be their Achilles heel all season long. So what's the one position or player do you think we're overestimating right now?
I think that the defensive backfield is better than worse near the bottom of the league, but I don't. Okay. But I think that certainly the bottom could easily fall out there. So that's certainly a good choice.
What about the offensive line?
Yeah, I mean,
because we're all just assuming that Tyron's going to be back to what he was before, and Tyler Biotish is going to take a step, and La'el Collins is hopefully going to be healthy at some point. Is there just a chance this offensive line got old and a little bit too inexperienced at a couple spots?
That's certainly possible, but I also think that is not nearly it won't nearly be as prevalent or as obvious as things were last year, simply because I think there will be we may be overestimating how good the offensive line is, but I don't know that they'll ever reach the floors that they arrived at last year. And I also think that having Dak Prescott healthy for a lot of that will mitigate a lot of those problems. Okay. So I think it'll be easy to kind of overlook that. I mean, I still have concerns because our defensive tackle situation is good. I think it's definitely improved against the run. I feel like we're probably over the McMosher line, or hopefully we're over the McMosher line as far as quality in the defensive interior, especially with the addition of Parsons and some of these other guys. But I do have concerns about our ability to get a pass rush up the middle, and especially against a guy like Tom Brady. We talked about you really would love to get pressure up the middle against a guy like that to get him moved off his spot. You're going to have to produce it probably with blitzing. And if you don't, we don't have Gallimore, unfortunately, early on. And even if you had Gallimore, you're not exactly sure what you have in an interior pass rush. And I think that it's good to have Gregory. It's good to have Lawrence. But I think the real way that you unlock those two is that you have something in the middle that forces one-on-ones on the outside. Or that you could someone who could take advantage of the one-on-ones that are being created inside because of Gregory and Lawrence.
Yeah, early season draft need for the Cowboys. Once again, next year's defensive tackle. They've got to get a difference maker there. They just haven't had one of those guys in a long time.
I mean, there's a very good chance that we get to the end of the season and it's incredibly improved because you got Gallimore coming back.
Chance, yes.
Osa's back. We don't know what the deal is with Hill. So imagine if all of those guys suddenly come back improved, and now you've got a nice little rotation. There's a possibility that suddenly you have an interior pass rush presence. But it's certainly isn't going to happen early on, and even once Gallimore comes back, I think there's gonna be some development time to kind of get where it needs to go.
I also think there's a chance that you have as many sacks as Tristan Hill does for the Cowboys this year. Just putting that out there. So,
well, I mean, I've just signed my contract, so we'll see.
All right, this next question ties into that one. There's a great Twitter handle at Moist Stool. Aside from Dak being back, what is your largest source of optimism this year?
Well, I mean, I think it's tied to the fact of what Dak did last year before he got injured. You know, it's not just that Dak is back, but the way that Dak and the whole offense operated, sans some, very notable turnovers when he was there last year. So I think the idea that there is a proven formula between the quarterback and the play caller and the offense, that gives me optimism. Mm-hmm. I also have optimism because no matter what anybody says, like I would have a hard time believing that this defense is going to be anywhere as bad as it was last year. Like I was thinking about all the confluence of events that happened last season that kind of produced this historically bad defense. And like, it wasn't even just one thing. It was like a whole huge mixture of terrible things that kind of cascaded and fell into each other. And I just feel like, the vibe around the defense all training camp and all throughout the preseason has been really, really positive. And I just feel like there is not only a lot higher level of organization, a lot higher level of interesting schematic stuff that's happening of not just kind of, very dull, very stale kind of concepts that they're just doing over and over again and hoping that they can outplay the offense. It's a upgraded talent. It's a upgrade in attitude, and it's a kind of hybridization of the schemes between the last 2 years that kind of has me excited that at least the defense is going to be, confident. A tier or two above where it was. I can't speak to how much better it's going to be beyond that. That's what's, that's where the optimism comes, is maybe it's a lot better than, and that would be really good for the Cowboys.
I think for me, the optimism comes from, I think they have the best wide receiver duo in football. At least we're going to see that this year with CeeDee Lamb and Amari Cooper. Like, I just think that matters a lot when you get to these big games, is teams don't have two good corners. So they're going to be able to match up with these guys. And then when you throw in Michael Gallup, it's going to be really, really hard for teams to hold Dallas under 28 points. So if you can score 29, 30 points every single week, you're going to give yourself a chance. And as long as Dak is upright, as long as these guys stay healthy, we're going to be in for some fun games, Landon. They're not going to win all of them, but there are going to be some fun games coming up.
I will just say real quick, the Locked On Network released their power rankings.
Should mention that, yeah. We are underrated. Listen, I love it. We're going into a season.
I do too. I actually don't hate it. But my only point is that Cowboys are ranked 19th. Cowboys fans, I'll let you take a breath. All right, 19th. I counted, and I was nice too. There are 11 teams above Dallas that have worse quarterback situations. And if you want to, again, I'm tying this back into the optimism.
Yeah, you
have one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL on your team, and that is probably the most stable indicator of wins and losses in the NFL. And I would say this is the
time of year where we like to look at depth charts and say this is the best team on paper, and then we get to the season. Oh yeah, having Aaron Rodgers is really all that matters. Right? Having Patrick Mahomes is what matters.
And I don't want to go on too much of this, but it feels like the conversations around all these teams are like, yeah, you know what, they could figure out. Jameis Winston could figure it out, and yeah, it could happen. And it's like
we have a Pro Bowl quarterback this year, of course. Yeah.
maybe David Carr is not the guy that maybe he's better than the
Derek
last.
Carr. Come on, David Carr's out of the league. You get.
Maybe I didn't accidentally say David Carr. It's just like that. It's like everyone has their kind of hopes. And a lot of times they have hopes around their quarterbacks being good. And the Cowboys have a good quarterback. I just think that a lot of teams have forgotten because, there's so much talk about Dak's contract in the offseason. Dak's injured. There's so many other storylines besides how good this team is that people have forgotten. And if they've forgotten, I will definitely take the underdog role, especially early on in the season.
I love it. All right, let's take one more quick break so I can tell you guys about BetOnline. It's that time of year again, and all eyes are now turning to football as teams are back on the gridiron to start the football season. As always, BetOnline is your number one spot for all the pro and college football action this season. Head to the website or use your mobile device to sign up today to receive your 100% welcome bonus. BetOnline is the fastest and the easiest way to bet on all of your favorite sports, from football, basketball, boxing, right to your favorite Vegas casino games. Don't wait and take advantage of all the great offers available for the 2021 season. BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts. All right, last thing. We're going to look at some props from BetOnline. I know a couple people sent us these. I just real quick, what your thoughts?
Quick. We got to make sure that just what BetOnline tips, since we're going into the betting section here. Make sure that you can stay awake for whatever games that you bet on. That's just a real big pro tip from Landon, guys.
Yeah, definitely make sure you do that. If you need an extra cup of coffee, do that.
Stay awake.
All right. This one actually comes from our guy Tony. He said over under CD Lamb's touchdowns this year set at 30. That's not true. It's actually set at 8.5. You taking the over or the under?
I'm taking the over on 30. What's the number? 8?
8.5.
That's a good number. I like that. I'm going to take the over, but I'm really conflicted because I do think that there's going to be a lot more variety in the Cowboys red zone this year than there has been. CD wasn't exactly a Dez Bryant type red zone weapon last year.
Do you know how many touchdowns he scored though?
Was it 5?
5 receiving, 1 rushing, 1 kickoff return.
Yeah.
So
that's good. That's good. I think that we've seen a little bit. We definitely seen a lot of uptick of that kind of fade route to CD in the end zone.
Spot fade. I think we're going to see that a lot this year.
Yeah. So I think that is something that he will do more of. But I also think that there's going to be a distribution, a wider distribution of where the ball's going in the red zone, whether that's Dak and option runs. Obviously Jarwin is back, and so is Schultz. So those guys will be obviously heavily targeted in the red zone as well. So I think 8.5 is a good number. I probably would take the over.
Okay. DeMarcus Lawrence sacks 8.5.
I think that I'd push. I think that's 9 is probably what I would say. So that's a good number.
Okay. Randy Gregory sacks 8.5.
I'm going to take the over because I do think that there's a chance that early on teams won't know to focus on Randy, and that DeMarcus Lawrence will take a lot of attention, and then Randy will maybe get a slew of sacks early and then kind of taper off as other people start to get the benefit of his attention from offensive lines.
Couple more. We'll go really, really quickly. Ezekiel Elliott, 9.5 rushing touchdowns.
Under.
Okay. Dak Prescott, over under 10.5 interceptions.
Under.
That's an
I don't know.
one.
That's a tough one.
I think I would go over. I think I'd go. They're just gonna have to throw the ball so much.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And remember, we got an extra game, so that factors in there.
Yeah, so maybe so. Yeah. Okay.
A couple more. Amari Cooper, over under 1,175 receiving yards. Basically what he does every single year.
Basically what he did last year and every other year. I'm going to take the under because I do think that Lamb is going to eat into his snaps a little bit this year, and we'll see.
Last one. This is my favorite one, and this one's my lock. Blake Jarwin, over under 500 receiving yards.
This is your lock?
He's going over that. There's absolutely no way.
You think so?
Not. Yeah.
Even with the shared role with Schultz, you think?
So what is that? You're averaging like 28 to 30 yards a game. He's going to do that. Like I'm telling you, in week 1, he's going to catch 2 or 3 passes through the seam. They're like 15 yards each. It's just going to happen. And there's going to be those games where he makes plays after the catch, and he has 7 for 92. Like, it's coming. He's going over 500 yards this year, easy.
I could easily see a world like that. Yeah, it's tough with the Schultz, snaps. But yeah, I mean, Schultz got 600 yards receiving last year, so it's certainly doable.
All right, those are some cool prop bets. We're going to be back on Tuesday, I believe, right? We're going to take Monday off. We'll be back on Tuesday. We're going to have a crossover podcast. We're going to have a preview podcast. Then we're going to have a recap. I mean, it's just going to be crazy. It's a busy
regular season, folks.
We're back into the regular season, man.
Back.
Should be a lot of fun. Make sure you are subscribing to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow the show on YouTube, Locked On Cowboys. You can follow us on Twitter at Locked On Cowboys. Follow Landon at McCool BCB. I'm at Marcus _Mosher. Enjoy college football this weekend. We'll see you guys back on Tuesday.